Have you ever felt a prickle on your skin? The distinct sensation of being watched, even when you're utterly alone. What if the watcher wasn't outside your window, but lurking in the very reflections of your life? An unseen presence that knows your deepest fears and uses them against you. This isn't just a story about a stalker. It's about a presence that blurs the line between the digital and the real. A terrifying entity that weaponizes your own image against you, until you question if you're truly alone, or if a part of you has been stolen. Liam, a meticulous archivist by trade, found a strange comfort in the orderly rows of historical documents and the hushed sanctity of the library where he worked. His own apartment, nestled in a quiet, older part of the city, mirrored his professional life. Shelves overflowing with books, each spine a testament to a memory preserved, a story held. Yet lately, a disquieting sense of disorder had begun to creep into his personal world, starting with minor, almost imperceptible lapses in memory. He'd misplace his keys, forget a colleague's name, or walk into a room and instantly lose the thread of why he was there. He dismissed it as stress, a byproduct of his demanding work, but a cold knot of unease began to form in his stomach. The first truly unsettling incident occurred one crisp autumn evening. Liam was preparing dinner, humming a tune he couldn't quite place when he stopped mid-chop. He couldn't remember the last time he'd bought groceries. He distinctly recalled a trip to the supermarket just yesterday, the familiar aisles, the smell of fresh produce, but the memory itself felt like a photograph fading at the edges. He shook his head, blaming fatigue, but a prickle of unease traced its way up his spine. The silence in his apartment, usually a comfort, now felt heavy, almost watchful, as if something was holding its breath. He started finding small, inexplicable discrepancies. A book on his shelf would be slightly out of place. A framed photograph subtly shifted. He'd wake up to find a light left on in the living room, though he was certain he'd turned it off before bed. He began to feel a pervasive sense of being watched, a constant pressure on the back of his neck, as if unseen eyes were scrutinizing his every move. He'd spin around suddenly, expecting to catch a glimpse of something, anything, but there was never anything there. Just the empty air and the unsettling quiet. The memory lapses grew more frequent, more significant. He'd forget entire conversations, important deadlines at work, even the faces of casual acquaintances. His meticulous notes, usually his anchor, sometimes contained passages he didn't remember writing, cryptic phrases that seemed to hint at forgotten horrors. It feeds on what you lose, one scrawled entry read in his own handwriting, yet utterly alien to him. He started seeing Dr. Iris Thorne, a neurologist recommended by a concerned colleague, hoping for a medical explanation for his increasingly alarming FORGETFULNE. As Dr. Thorne, a man of science and logic, listened patiently to Liam's fragmented accounts, his expression unreadable. He ordered a battery of tests. MR is cognitive assessments, blood work. Liam, your brain scans show no anomalies. Your cognitive functions are within normal range for your age, Dr. Thorne explained, his tone reassuring but firm. Stress and anxiety can manifest in many ways, including memory issues, Perhaps we should explore psychological avenues." Liam nodded, outwardly accepting, but inwardly, a desperate fear gnawed at him. He knew, with a terrifying certainty, that this was more than just stress. The feeling of being watched intensified, becoming almost unbearable. Liam started barricading his apartment door at night, piling chairs against it, though he knew, deep down, that whatever was watching him wasn't coming through the door. He'd sit in the dark, clutching a heavy book, his gaze fixed on the shadows, convinced that if he just stared long enough, he would finally see it. But the shadows remained, stubbornly empty, shifting only with the faint glow of passing car lights. He started noticing subtle changes in his periphery. A fleeting, elongated shadow stretching across the wall where there was no object to cast it. A flicker of movement in the corner of his eye, gone the moment he turned his head. It was like living in a constant state of almost seeing, a maddening dance with an unseen presence that existed just beyond the realm of direct perception. He felt like he was losing his mind, slowly, irrevocably, piece by piece. The auditory hallucinations began subtly. Faint whispers carried on the non-existent breeze within his apartment. At first, he dismissed them as the creaks of an old building, the hum of city life. But then, the whispers became clearer, distinct fragments of forgotten names, places, and events. Rosewood Lane, the swing set, the Red Ball. They were snippets of his own childhood, memories he hadn't thought about in decades, now dredged up by an unseen force, whispered back to him with an unnerving intimacy. He called his estranged sister, Maya, a pragmatic and grounded woman who lived states away. He tried to explain haltingly about the memory loss, the whispers, the feeling of being watched. Maya, initially concerned, quickly grew frustrated. "Liam, you sound like you're spiraling. You need to get some sleep. See a therapist. This isn't like you." Her dismissal, though born of concern, only deepened his isolation, reinforcing the terrifying notion that he was truly alone in this nightmare. One evening, as Liam stared at an old family photograph, a picture of him and Maya as children, playing in a sun-drenched park, he felt a sudden profound chill. He looked closer at his own face in the photo, and for a fleeting, horrifying moment, his eyes in the picture seemed to shift, to hold a cold, knowing glint that wasn't his own. He blinked, and it was gone, but the image lingered, a terrifying suggestion that something was not just watching him, but subtly altering his past, his very identity, from within the fading edges of his own memories. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, a constant chorus of forgotten names and fragmented scenes from Liam's childhood. They were like tiny needles pricking at the edges of his consciousness, trying to pull buried memories to the surface, only to have them snatched away. He tried to write them down, to anchor them, but the moment he focused, the words would dissolve, replaced by a blankness, a void. The observer, as he now internally named the entity, was actively consuming his past, feeding on the very fabric of his identity. His apartment, once a sanctuary, became a labyrinth of unsettling anomalies. Objects would appear on his desk that he didn't recognize, a tarnished silver locket, a child's wooden train car, yet they felt strangely familiar, imbued with a phantom significance. He'd traced their contours, trying to grasp the memory they represented, but they remained stubbornly blank, just objects. The air was perpetually cold in certain spots, localized pockets of icy dread that would follow him from room to room, a chilling manifestation of the observer's presence. The psychological toll was immense. Liam found himself questioning everything. He knew every memory, every experience. He'd stare at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, searching for any subtle change, any sign that his face was no longer entirely his own. Sometimes he swore his eyes held a deeper, colder glint, a flicker of something ancient and alien. He'd pinch himself hard, desperate to ground himself in physical reality, to prove that he was still Liam, still a man of flesh and blood, not a fading echo. He became obsessed with documenting his life, filling notebooks with frantic, sprawling entries about his day, his thoughts, his fears. He set up a webcam in his living room, recording hours of mundane activity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the fleeting shadows, to prove to himself and to Dr. Thorne that he wasn't imagining it. But when he reviewed the footage, it was always empty, just him, alone in his apartment, talking to himself, his paranoia captured in stark, undeniable clarity. The observer was too subtle, too clever. One night, while frantically searching for an old photo album, Liam stumbled upon a box of his childhood belongings. He pulled out a worn, red rubber ball, its color faded, its surface scuffed. As his fingers closed around it, a whisper, clearer than any before, echoed in his mind. Rosewood Lane. The swing set. The red ball. You fell. You hid. A flash of a memory, sharp and painful, pierced through the fog. A summer afternoon. The park. A child falling from a swing. A scream, and then nothing. A void. The memory was too painful, too deeply repressed. As the fragmented memory surfaced, the air in the apartment grew impossibly heavy, the silence pressing in on him, a palpable weight. The lights flickered violently, casting erratic shadows that danced across the walls, elongating, twisting, almost forming a coherent shape in his peripheral vision. He could feel the observer's hunger, its presence growing stronger, feeding on the raw, unprocessed pain of the surfacing memory. He dropped the ball, his hands trembling, the whisper echoing, "You hid. You forgot, and I remember." Desperate, Liam called Dr. Thorne again, his voice cracking with a newfound urgency. "Doctor, it's not stress. It's real. It's feeding on my memories. It wants me to remember something, but it also wants to erase it." Dr. Thorne, though still cautious, heard the raw terror in Liam's voice, the genuine distress that transcended. Typical delusion. He agreed to meet Liam at his apartment, a concession born of a growing, unsettling curiosity. While waiting for Dr. Thorne, Liam felt an overwhelming urge to find Maya. He needed her. He needed a connection to his past, to someone who remembered him, who could anchor him to reality. He called her, his voice pleading, "Maya, please, you have to come. Something is happening. I'm forgetting things, important things, things about our childhood, Maya, hearing the genuine desperation in his voice, and perhaps a flicker of something she couldn't quite place, agreed to book a flight. As he spoke to Maya, Liam caught a glimpse of his reflection in the darkened window. His image was there, but behind it, a faint, almost translucent shadow began to coalesce, mirroring his movements, but with an unsettling fluidity. The shadow's eyes, though indistinct, seemed to glow with a cold, malevolent light, fixed on him with an unnerving intensity. It was learning, growing stronger, mimicking his very essence. He slammed the phone down, his heart pounding, the chilling realization settling in. The observer was not just consuming his memories. It was consuming him. The apartment plunged into near darkness as the lights flickered and died, leaving only the faint glow of the city outside. The air grew impossibly cold, and a low guttural hum filled the silence, vibrating through the floorboards, through Liam's very bones. He could feel the observer's presence all around him, a suffocating embrace of unseen eyes. He was trapped, alone, with an entity that was slowly, meticulously erasing him from existence, one forgotten memory at a time. The power outage plunged Liam's apartment into an oppressive darkness, broken only by the faint, eerie glow of the city lights filtering through the windows. The hum intensified, a low, resonant thrum that vibrated through his very bones. A sound that felt less like an external noise and more like an internal tremor. He could feel the observer's presence all around him, a suffocating embrace of unseen eyes, its hunger for his memories, a palpable pressure against his mind. He was trapped, utterly alone, with an entity that was slowly, meticulously erasing him from existence, one forgotten memory at a time. The psychological torment reached a fever pitch. Liam found himself caught in loops of fragmented memories, replaying snippets of conversations he couldn't fully recall, seeing faces he almost recognized, only for them to dissolve into static. The observer was actively scrambling his mind, making it impossible to hold on to a thought, to anchor himself to any concrete reality. He paced his apartment, muttering to himself, trying to piece together the fragments, desperate to remember the childhood trauma that the entity seemed so keen on both revealing and erasing. When Dr. Thorne arrived, he found Liam huddled in a corner, rocking back and forth, his eyes wide and unfocused, muttering about the red ball and Rosewood Lane. The doctor, a man of science, felt a genuine chill creep up his spine. The apartment was unnaturally cold, the air thick with an unspoken dread. He tried to talk to Liam, to ground him, but Liam's responses were disjointed, his gaze darting to empty corners of the room, as if something unseen was whispering to him. As Dr. Thorne examined Liam, his own medical equipment began to malfunction. His digital thermometer displayed erratic readings, his pen light flickered and died, and his phone, usually reliable, suddenly displayed a distorted, pixelated image of Liam's face, frozen in a silent scream. The screen then went black, refusing to turn back on. Dr. Thorne, his scientific skepticism crumbling, felt a profound sense of dread. This was beyond a mental breakdown. This was something else, something deeply, terrifyingly wrong. The observer, sensing its increasing power, began to manifest more overtly. Dr. Thorne, looking into the large, darkened window of Liam's living room, saw his own reflection, but behind it, a faint, elongated shadow began to coalesce, mirroring his movements with an unsettling grace. The shadow's eyes, though indistinct, seemed to glow with a cold, malevolent light, fixed on him with an unnerving intensity. It was learning, growing stronger, mimicking his very essence. He spun around, but there was nothing there, just the empty room and the oppressive hum. Liam, meanwhile, was reliving the repressed memory with terrifying clarity. He saw himself, a small boy, playing with a red rubber ball near a swing set. Another child, a girl, was on the swing. He threw the ball. It went too far, and the girl, reaching for it, fell. A sickening crack. Her stillness, his panic, his desperate, childish attempt to hide her, to bury her beneath a pile of leaves, to make her disappear. And then, the crushing weight of forgetting, pushing the memory deep down, burying it. The observer was forcing him to confront the truth, consuming the memory even as it revealed it. As the memory surfaced, the apartment seemed to warp. The walls rippled, the shadows stretched into grotesque, impossible shapes, and the hum became a roaring cacophony of whispers, all speaking the girl's name, a name Liam had long forgotten. Alara. You forgot Alara. The observer was no longer just a presence. It was a physical manifestation of his forgotten guilt, a living echo of his repressed trauma. Maya arrived just as the chaos in the apartment reached its peak. She found the door ajar, the lights out, and the air thick with an inexplicable cold. She heard Dr. Thorne's frantic voice, and then Liam's choked sobs. As she stepped into the living room, she saw her brother curled on the floor, weeping, and Dr. Thorne, his face pale with terror, staring at a shimmering distortion in the air where a shadowy figure seemed to coalesce, its form almost human, but made of shifting static and fragmented light. Its eyes, Liam's eyes, burned with a cold, malevolent intelligence. The observer, now almost fully formed, turned its gaze to Maya. It spoke, its voice a chilling blend of Liam's own, distorted and echoing, and something else, something ancient and guttural. You forgot her too, Maya. You let him forget. You are complicit in the silence. Maya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She hadn't known about Alara, their childhood friend. Liam had never spoken of it, and she had simply forgotten the details of that long-ago summer. The observer was feeding on her forgotten memories too, growing stronger with each revelation. Liam, seeing Maya's face, seeing the terror and the dawning recognition, felt a surge of desperate clarity. He had to remember. He had to acknowledge Alara, to break the silence that had allowed the observer to thrive. He looked at the shimmering, almost human form of the observer, its eyes burning with his own stolen essence, and he spoke, his voice raw with pain and resolve. Alara, he choked out, the name a searing brand on his tongue. I remember. I remember what happened. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. As Liam spoke the truth, a blinding flash of light erupted from the observer. It shrieked, a soundless scream of pure digital agony, its form convulsing, fracturing, as if something was being torn from its grasp. The oppressive cold dissipated, replaced by a sudden intense heat that seemed to burn away the remaining whispers. The hum died down, the lights flickered back on, and the shadowy form of the observer dissolved into nothingness, leaving only the lingering scent of ozone and dust. Liam collapsed, utterly exhausted, but a profound, exhausted peace settled over his features. He had faced the glitch, and for now he had won.